Green light, go. How are we doing?
This is NLS. How are we doing?
My name is Nicholas Houston Andrews. My message is about inspiring acceptance to go beyond challenges.
Who just sang the national anthem as a walrus? Like, I love that confidence. You were like, oh, that's too good.
I believe acceptance starts with yourself. It's a decision. It's a choice that you make every single day.
It's a real pleasure for me to be here. I actually went through seminar a few years back in 2000, and it was a great experience.
Self-acceptance is one of the biggest lessons I learned at an early age. You see, when I was 7 years old, I was told I was different.
When I was 7, for about a year, I'd been displaying these very odd behaviors. And my parents knew that it wasn't something that seemed to be quite right. And over the course of this year, these behaviors took us a lot of different places. We started out at my local doctor, we moved on to Lincoln, and then to Omaha, and then all the way to Minneapolis, Minnesota, where the Mayo Clinic is. And finally, we found ourselves in Kansas City at the KU Med Center, where for 2 days, I was put under a series of tests. And then finally, the doctor walked in, and he sat my mother and I down. He opened a big chart. It was very official. He looked at me, and he looked at my mother. And he said, Mrs. Andrews, your son Nicholas, well, he's different. Nicholas has what we call Tourette's syndrome.
Tourette's syndrome is a neurological disorder that manifests itself in motor and vocal tics.
My brain sends messages to different parts of my body, and I don't have any control over it. And it can be very uncomfortable.
As a result, I spent my childhood labeled that there was something wrong with me.
There's not much things in life that hurt worse than people that you used to care about looking at you and making fun of you for something that you can't control.
Life can be tough when you're different.
This started what I like to call the perfect storm in my life. The first thing is, people started making fun of me. And that continued to escalate for the next 2 years. The other part of this perfect storm is I didn't hit puberty until about my freshman year of high school, which, just let me tell you, showing up for the first day of football practice and everybody's got like hair on their chest and like walking up to you like, hey Nicholas, how was your summer? And I gotta look back and go, oh, it was great guys, thanks for asking. Like,
my journey to self-acceptance and really liking who I am, it started when I stopped listening to the voices of other people and I started hearing my own.
And the third was, I was very, very over-medicated. When all these three things came together, I started having anxiety attacks. And they were short at first, like 1 minute at a time, and it was really weird. It was like I was just frozen. Like I couldn't move. I could only get out maybe 1 or 2 words. But then it started to increase. And 1 minute turned into 5 minutes. And 5 minutes turned into 10 minutes. 10 minutes turned into an hour. In the spring semester of my freshman year of high school, after I had had an anxiety attack for 6 hours, my parents determined that there wasn't anything else they could do for me. So they took me up to the hospital in Lincoln at Bryan LGH, and I was checked into the pediatric psych ward. But it ended up being the best thing that could have ever happened to me. Because the first thing they did is they took me off all my meds. Gone. And for the first time in 2.5 years, I was finally back to what I would call somewhat of a normal feeling in my body. And the day after that happened, because it took about 3 days, I woke up, went over to the sink, washed my face, I looked in the mirror, and I smiled. Because you see, for 3 days, I had had none of those things that I was concerned about in my life. There were no tests, there was no homework, there were no people making fun of me, my meds were no longer an issue. I was making my way through puberty. But I finally got to look in the mirror with clear eyes and seeing the person looking back at me. And I cracked a smile and I said, Nicholas, you are different. But you know what? You're awesome.
I took Tourette's syndrome, and as opposed to being upset and feeling like I was a victim, that it wasn't fair. I chose to learn from it. And the lessons that I learned were, first, I'm awesome because I decide. No one else gets to determine how I value myself. And the second is empathy. Because it doesn't matter who you are, everyone has struggles, everyone has challenges, everyone has something that makes them different.
Couldn't keep it in, even knows I've tried. Don't let them in, don't let them see.
Acceptance starts with yourself, then learning to accept others. And finally, you teach others to do the same.
Let the storm rage on!
My name is Nicholas Houston Andrews, and my whole goal is to inspire acceptance to go beyond challenges. Rest assured, I'm working on my singing.